What? No, when,
The bubble is off. Are you okay with?
Go ahead and bubble it.
no, it's going to be the drone shot.
Go ahead and bubble it.
No. Listen. I'm gonna open the show. You're gonna be on me. I'm gonna. Thursday, February 25th, 2021. Roland Martin Unfiltered, broadcasting live from Jacksonville, Florida. Coming up on today's show, Calif, co-founder of Black Voters Matter, talks about the massive voter suppression that Republicans are trying to enact in Georgia. Also, what will be done to force Democrats to get rid of the filibuster in order to pass the John Lewis Voting Act. We'll discuss all of that with him. Also, on today's show, we'll talk about the results regarding Elijah McClain. Today would have been his 25th birthday, and of course, he suffered a heart attack after being arrested in Aurora, Colorado. Those cops, frankly, were wrong. Nothing's happened to them. That, folks, is a problem. Also, we'll talk with Opal Lee, who's trying to get Juneteenth to become a national holiday in the United States. Also on today's show, coronavirus still impacting so many of us. The sister of D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser has passed away. We'll also talk black content and streaming services. It's good for black content for those providers, but what are those companies also doing when it comes to advertising with black media? We'll talk about that. And in Berkeley, California, they are defunding the police in a huge way. We'll explain to you what they're doing, something no one has ever tried before. Also, update on what's happening in Texas, where 4 of the board members of the state board over the company of the state's energy have resigned because they don't even live in Texas. Folks, it is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
We're broadcasting live from Jacksonville, Florida, where we've been here working on some in-conversation discussions. Today, we shot Janetta B. Cole, Tiffany Lofton, Charlie Cobb-Snick, and Philip Agnew. I cannot wait to show you those interviews, folks. It's going to be really great for you to see those interviews. And so we've been on the road all week. On Tuesday, we were in Atlanta talking with Calif and Ambassador Andrew Young. Yesterday, had a great chance to sit down with the legendary attorney Fred Gray, 90 years old, one of the most important legal minds in our civil rights movement. And, of course, the conversation today, and so we certainly look forward to that. All right, folks, let's get into it. Let's talk politics. First and foremost, what is happening here what's happening in Georgia. We've spent lots of time in Georgia talking about there, and we've been emphasizing to you about Republicans and what they're trying to do. All across the country, Republicans have been putting in place, proposing significant bills that will greatly undercut voting, especially black voters. In Georgia, what they're trying to do, folks, is beyond despicable. Because of what happened with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris winning that state and John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock both winning U.S. Senate seats, what they're doing, they're actually trying to get rid of voting on Sundays. They want to curtail early voting 5 days. And they're trying to change the law where if you did not vote in the general election, you can't register and vote for the runoff election. It is a number of things that they're doing and trying, folks, that makes no sense whatsoever. And so we're going to be talking about that with Calif, co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Let me introduce my panel as well. Let me know, folks, when Calif is there. Of course, our Thursday panel every Thursday, Dr. Greg Carr, Chair of the Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University. Erica Savage-Wilson hosts Savage Politics Podcast, as well as Reese Colbert, Black Women Views. And so, as I said, let's now bring in Calif into our conversation. Calif, always glad to see you. It's crazy, Calif, what they're doing there. And I keep telling people how dastardly it is what's going on. I mean, they are, to say they're going to get rid of, because they're scared of souls to the polls, trying to cut early voting down to 5 days. The Republicans in Georgia want to cheat in all future elections.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things that's amazing about that, Roland. Good to see you. One is that, basically what they're trying to change is a system that they set up. Back in 2005, they pushed the absentee voting, and mainly because they but the reality was that it was mainly their folks that they were expecting to use it. And to a certain extent, that's been true for some of these years. But as we all know, in 2018 and definitely last year, and then just last month in this runoff elections, Black voters, people of color all across the board, but especially Black voters, used it to a great extent, literally shocked the world by using the vote by mail process. So now a process that they set up, they all of a sudden want to scream is fraudulent and is a fixed situation. And again, keeping in mind that this state went through not one, not two, but 3 different recounts and accounting, whatever, to double check the election. The Secretary of State repeatedly has said that there was no fraud, that this was one of the safest elections that they've ever had. He told the entire country that there was no fraud, and yet you have all of these bills that are coming out under the guise of trying to prevent voter fraud. So we know exactly what it is. It's just straight up voter suppression. It's just straight up Jim Crow. It's just straight up poll taxes and counting of jelly beans. They are shameless in the ways that they're trying to steal our votes.
And again, talking about how significant this is, they are scared to death next year of Stacey Abrams running against Brian Kemp for the race to be governor of Georgia. Also, Senator Raphael Warnock is going to be running for re-election as well. And so they are trying to rig. Donald Trump loved running his mouth. Republicans kept talking about how the election was rigged. This is actually election rigging, what they are trying to do in Georgia.
Yeah, it's election rigging, and it's being led by folks that have been rigging elections for a long time. One of the main sponsors of the largest of these bills, the omnibus bill that includes a whole bunch of these procedure and voter suppression tactics in it, is a representative called Fleming, who years ago in a very rural county, right? And we say this all the time, that when we don't deal with voter suppression in rural areas that happens in the darkness, it's only a matter of time before it expands like bacteria, right? Or like a virus. And so this Fleming person literally was trying to steal votes in rural Hancock County, right? Trying to get people kicked off the voter rolls, right? Trying to investigate voters. And now this is the person that's leading the attack on the statewide voter suppression that's taking place. So again, these are folks that, they've been at this for a long time, but now with the emphasis of the big lie, right? The national big lie. And again, in spite of the fact that we know that there's no fraud taking place in these elections, these are the folks that are attacking our right to vote right here in this state. And again, it just really emphasizes why we critically, urgently, we need H.R. 1 and H.R. 4 at the federal level, the restoration of strengthening of the Voting Rights Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. We need these acts passed, not tomorrow, not next week. We need them passed yesterday, because that is one of the main ways that we're going to have to have a tool in order to fight against what's taking place, not just in Georgia, but all across the country. As you know, there were 200, it's estimated, I think the Brennan Center estimated that there's 253 bills that have been introduced in 43 states across the country.
Not only that, one of the things they want to do, they want to only allow absentee balloting for folks 75 or older.
That's right. I mean, limiting the absentee to 75 and older, getting rid of no excuse, requiring multiple hard copies of your photo ID. There's even versions talking about, just like they have in Alabama, where you might have to have an affidavit or a witness signature or something to that effect. All of these things, I mean, the range of tactics that they are using, again, is really just shameless. They're not even trying to really hide that it's voter suppression. They're not even really trying to hide. And they've been caught on video in the past. I think it was the speaker, the Republican Speaker of the House, I believe, who was caught saying that if we continue to do this, vote by mail and expanding this voting, that Republicans will never be able to win another election. So they've been very honest about what it is that they're trying to do. The question is, what are we going to do to stop them, both in terms of stopping them in the legislature, stopping them in the courts? As you know, Roland, we're not afraid of suing the state of Georgia. So stopping them in the courts. But again, at the federal level, we have got to have action on these federal bills that are pending in Congress right now. That's why our folks risk their lives in this election cycle to take control of the Senate and to be able to take control of Congress so that we can pass bold action in order to protect our voting rights and all the other major issues that we care deeply about.
Speaking of that, when you talk about taking that bold action, that also means forcing these Democrats, they're going to have to actually get rid of the filibuster. And so what are you, LaTosha Brown, and others doing? Because, look, this is what I keep saying. This action has to be taken this year. After this COVID bill, the John Lewis Act should be the next bill. And if that means bringing hundreds of thousands of people to Washington, D.C., dropping them on the Capitol, going door to door, putting pressure on Joe Manchin, on Kristen Sinema, Dianne Feinstein, and others, it has to happen, because if the federal bill is not passed, they can kiss the majority, they can kiss the control away. And you tweeted this the other day, look, we can't make no argument to somebody who didn't vote as to why they should vote if they didn't use the power when they had it.
That's right. And not only to you can't make that argument to somebody who didn't vote, but even folks who did vote, right? Some first-time voters, some folks that went skeptically to vote, right? I've seen responses to a tweet thread that I did yesterday, where people are giving their personal testimonies of how they helped mobilize younger voters, first-time voters, new voters, skeptical voters, right? Who weren't really feeling the process, but they got them to come out. But now those folks are looking at the process and saying, wait a minute, what's going on? We did all this, we got them power in Congress, and now we gotta rely on a parliamentarian. Like that's something that we never had to say when we was going out there mobilizing voters during this past election cycle. That if you go out here, if you risk your life in the midst of COVID, right, if you put everything on the line, what you are going to win is you're going to win the right to have the parliamentarian decide our future, or you're going to win the right to have Manchin and Sinema to decide our futures. That's not what we were telling folks, and that can't be what the reality is. And so, to your question, we've got to mobilize our folks in all of our states to reach out to their representatives, to put pressure on their congressional leadership, that includes Schumer, in order to deal with these folks that are causing us to not be able to squash the filibuster, right? But to also put pressure on the Biden administration. It's not acceptable that they're looking at the antics of a Manchin and a Sinema, and I call them Manchinema, right? Because they're linked like that. But it's not acceptable that the Biden administration is going to just look at these two folks and allow them to dictate the agenda and not use the tools that they have at their disposal to get these people to act right. At the end of the day, Joe Biden's been in the Senate or in the White House for 47 years. If he ain't learned enough tactics by this point, right, if he didn't learn enough of LBJ tactics at this point to figure out how to count some votes and twist some arms and get some stuff done, then we may have just put the wrong dude in there. Now, I'm not saying he's worse than the person that was there, clearly, but at the end of the day, we have got to pressure him to use every tool he's got at his disposal in order to get these folks to act right, squash the filibuster, and move on this agenda.
And just for anybody to understand, we were very clear. We were going to have to put pressure on whoever was in power. And so I kept saying, voting is one thing, after folks are elected is another thing. And I'm telling you, the threat needs to be laid down right now, Cliff. It needs to be laid down to Chuck Schumer, to Nancy Pelosi, and every Democrat. We will drop 10,000 people a week on that Capitol. And if those folks on January 6th, I'm talking about saying, look, they were there protesting. I'm saying we're going to bring people. We ain't sitting here trying to overthrow stuff, but we're going to bring people to hit every single United States senator, go to every single one of their offices, fill the chamber up, fill the hallways up, because racial justice has to be there. And I don't give a damn about these Senate rules. I don't care about how we all getting along and all that sort of stuff. No, damn all of that. The pressure it should be real simple. COVID bill, first. John Lewis voting bill, second. George Floyd Justice Act, third. Now, after that, y'all can sit here and do what you want to do on immigration or infrastructure, but those should be the first three bills that the Senate and the House confronts.
Those should be the three bills. That's got to be the demand. And the other part of the demand is that to whatever extent he has executive authority to move on some of these things that he needs to be moving on. For example, even before the HR 1 and HR 4 are passed, the Voting Rights Acts are passed, they can be doing something at the executive level, right? They can be joining in on some of the existing lawsuits that are already floating through the system. Like they can be given support to fight against some of these voter suppression tactics. There's executive action that they can use even while we're trying to get those things passed. But your point is absolutely correct that they have got to prioritize these issues, and not just because it's important to us, but at the end of the day, even if it was just out of their own self-interest, right? Even if it's just out of their own desire to maintain power, what they've got to understand, if they don't act immediately on these voting rights bills, then 2022 can be a wrap, not because of anything that Black Voters Matter does or Fair Fight does or doesn't or anything like that, just because that if they allow this whole slate of bills that is going through these key states, if they allow this to happen, it is going to be incredibly difficult to continue to do what we did last year and what we've been doing. So even if it's just out of a sense of preservation, they need to take action on these issues that we are demanding that they take action on, and that we motivated and mobilized people on throughout the election campaign.
And let's be real clear. Okay, let's just be real clear here. Republicans, we seeing what they doing. 42 states in America, 42 states, they are proposing voter suppression bills. They wield power. When they have the majority in the House and the Senate and the governor's match on the state level, they say, we're going to sit here and run a train on y'all. And I'm using that language for a reason. That's what they're sitting here doing, Cliff. And Democrats, oh no, we're going to sit here and maintain our congenial rules because, you know, what's going to happen if we're not in power, they're in power. Guess what? They're going to do it like they did with Amy Coney Barrett. So either you use the power when you have it, or you're going to lose the power, and then you can't come to us to save your ass to get it back, because we're going to say, we gave it to you. We went to the polls. We did the best that we could. And let me be real clear. Let me be real clear, white America. Y'all didn't do your job in Maine, where a woman lost. In Kentucky, where McGrath lost. Where a woman lost in Iowa. All them white states, y'all didn't do your job. But guess what? We did what we were supposed to do in Georgia in order to get the doggone Senate. Latinos did what they were supposed to do in Arizona to elect Mark Kelly to get what they were supposed to do. And so now you again wants to bail you out? No, you better use this damn power or you're going to lose it in 2022.
You're exactly right. And that's the deal. And when we say that, you know, people need to be clear. It's not a matter of us as organizers or you as a journalist wishing this on the country or wishing this on Democrats, right? It's a matter of, look, we can read the tea leaves, right? Like I said earlier today, like, you don't blame the doctor for giving the diagnosis. So if I'm telling you that if you fail to move on these policies, that there's going to be consequences and repercussions, it's not because I'm gonna be the one out there that's saying that people don't vote, right? But I am telling you, just off of my experience, just as you, Roland, are telling folks off of your experience, we can see what's coming. And we can already see that if there's not movement on these issues, like you said, the Voting Rights Act, COVID, George Floyd, you know, throw in there the increase in the minimum wage, which right now there's that whole fight over whether that's going to be included in this COVID package. But that if there's not student loan, if there's not enough movement on these issues, and there might be one or two that they lose on, right, or they can't get done, right? But if there's not enough movement on this, we are telling folks there's going to be consequences, because it is human nature that if you convince folks to vote because their vote has power, because their vote will change policies and change their lives, and then that doesn't happen, it's not rocket science to know that you are going to see a decrease in turnout. And it may not, it could be 1%, 4%, 5%, whatever. It doesn't have to be a 50% decrease, but with the razor thin margins that we see, that kind of a decrease could be disastrous. That's what we're trying to tell folks, and they have got to take bold action right now. It's not even bold action because we're talking about policies that are like remarkably popular. The COVID bill is remarkably popular. Increasing the minimum wage, remarkably popular. The voting rights is remarkably popular. So it's not even a big lift. There's just got to be the political will for them to get it done.
Cliff Albright, co-founder of Black Voters Matter. We really appreciate it, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Roland.
Rishi Colbert, I'm going to go to you first. It's called getting off your lazy asses and using your power. And I know people out there shouldn't have gone, well, yeah, but that's what we told you. I keep telling y'all, two people were going to win, Trump or Biden. Who was going to win in Georgia? It was going to be Loeffler and Perdue or Ossoff and Warnock, bottom line. But can't nobody out there say, I didn't warn you that after we vote, then we have to make them do what they said they were going to do. That's what we're talking about here, Reese.
Absolutely. And I think that, personally, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is getting off way too easy in all this, because it's popular to try to hound, President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. But do you see people having to hound Speaker Pelosi? She always gets the job done, even though her margins in Congress are slim, much slimmer than what she had in the last session of Congress. But it seems like Chuck Schumer is asleep at the wheel. He's the one who has the out-of-control caucus. He's the one who has the caucus members who are trying to derail Biden's cabinet nominees. He's the one who has his nominees, who are his caucus members, who are undermining the fight for $15 minimum wage, which is the Biden-Harris promise, as well as a Democratic promise. Almost all the Democrats ran on that. And so I think there needs to be considerably more pressure on Chuck Schumer, who is up for re-election in 2022. Now, granted, he's very popular in his home state of New York. Primarying him probably would not result in a successful primary. But I just think that, it's his first time being majority leader, and he was minority leader throughout the entire Trump presidency. So it's time for him to step up. It's time for him to make stuff happen, because that's his job as majority leader. And if he's not capable of to it, then somebody else needs to step up and do that job, because I'm not seeing it from him. And it seems like they're just not as united as they need to be. And that's going to be the biggest hindrance when it comes to passing any kind of agenda, particularly anything that's going to take more than 50 votes, without Chuck Schumer being willing to scrap the filibuster.
Mm-hmm. Erica, they got to fight. They got to be willing to fight. They got to be willing to scrap. They got to be willing to go hard. And they got to learn how to, again, wield power. And I'm sick of all this nice shit. I'm sick of it. Okay, we dealt with 4 years of Republicans. No, not 4 years. The last 2 years of Obama. So for the last 6 years, Republicans like, hell no, we ain't passing jack. We ain't confirming judges. Y'all can pass all the bills in the House you want to. They're gonna die in the Senate. Now you have the power. It's 50-50. And yes, you have to sit here and kiss the butter mansion and Sienna, but somebody got to go to them and say, hey, fool, guess what? If you idiots don't end the filibuster bill and we don't pass the John Lewis Act, y'all going to be in the minority in 2023?
Absolutely, because it was Georgians that delivered Warnock and Ossoff. 1.3 million Georgians braved to vote by mail. And when we look at the actions of Speaker Ralston, which I'm glad that Cliff Albright brought his name forward, January the 7th, the day after the insurrection, the day after the senatorial victory in Georgia, Speaker Ralston, who has been Speaker of the Georgia House of Representatives since 2010, stood up the Georgia Special Committee on Election Integrity. And that committee, which does comprise Barry Fleming, who Cliff Albright also mentioned, I counted so far 47 anti-democratic, anti-voting bills that they have introduced since January. And 4 of those bills are already engrossed, meaning that they've already passed over to the Senate and that they've been certified by the Senate Secretary. They are actively and have been actively working since the day after the United States Capitol was taken over by insurrectionists and treasonists. They have been working to effectively ensure that Georgians do not see victory again. So based on those merits of victory that Georgia delivered to the Senate, it is only becoming that they take action. And so even we're looking at these big 2 bills, House Bill 531 in Georgia, SB 241, which are egregious in nature, that you have the Senate Ethics Committee that was meeting at 7:30 in the morning to get a hearing on it. Those 2 bills, which would effectively ban mobile voting, which would also ensure that folks who wanted to vote by mail again, that they would have to be able to provide a copy of their driver's license or a copy of their state-issued Georgia ID. Those are the acceptable forms of ID just to request their ballot. There are whole other a bunch of hoops that folks have to jump through in order to submit their ballot. And this is detrimental for communities, particularly rural communities. They don't have printing facilities or access to copiers or scanners in their community to be able to do those things. For folks who don't have a Georgia state ID or a Georgia driver's license, they may have only their tribal identification. The bills that are coming out are fast and swift. We have crossover day, because I'm back in Georgia. We have crossover day that should be taking place on March the 5th. And if those bills get over to crossover day, then we're really talking about an uphill battle. So Georgians are getting ready. They are protesting today. There's another big protest that'll be happening on Monday, when these bills will either be going through committee or have another hearing, or actually go through HB 531, be going to the floor for a vote. There is trouble in the water. And so the response needs to be absolutely for HR 1 and 4 to pass, because we can see that Georgia has definitely cranked up the heat around that preclearance that was struck down with the Voting Rights Act. They are actively ensuring that folks who are disabled, people who are elderly, people who are immunocompromised, people who want to vote, that it is more difficult for them to do. We are in a crisis state, and we need for our Congress to respond accordingly to all 43 states.
Bottom line here, Dr. Greg Card, for those people who don't understand history, who don't understand the reality, black leaders, civil rights leaders, for years, they have threatened, they have made it perfectly clear that we're going to use the power of the people to bring them to the nation's capital to force you to do what you do. It was A. Philip Randolph who threatened a mass march on Washington to force the hand of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Simple as that. It's been other leaders who have done that. So what we're talking about ain't new, okay? It's not new. Black folks have always done that. And this is also an issue that can garner support from other people to stand with us, okay? Young people, Latinos, Asians, Native Americans. The issue of voter suppression cuts across so many different areas, and I think the polling numbers would be there. We've got to have people who are going to push hard enough to, if somebody don't have the heart to get rid of the filibuster to pass this bill, because you're not going to get 10 Republican votes, then guess what, Greg? We got to give them some heart, and that might mean a swift kick in the butt.
There's no question, Roland. I'm actually very encouraged. I'm energized, and I congratulate the white nationalists who are now in the Republican Party. I encourage them in their fight because I have no stake in this country. If it's going to remain a settler project, it can go to hell. And what history of this country showed us is that at moments like this, the future of the country, in terms of what happens in the immediate wake of these type of actions, is pretty predictable. The Civil War, Reconstruction, the Civil Rights Movement. And these white nationalists, congratulations, white boys and girls, because you're going to destroy your country. And that's not necessarily a bad thing for the people who live in it. What do I mean by that? The Senate wasn't flipped in January with the runoff election. We know who Manchin was. We knew who Sinema was. What happened was the thing was put close enough to engage in an all-out war. Joe Manchin, tool of the special interests in his formerly coal mining West Virginia, should be destroyed. And he should be destroyed by those who call themselves allies. I'm not talking about black and brown people. I'm talking about the white people who said they're allies of democracy and they're for people. You should move now to West Virginia. And if polling data can be trusted, and I think some of it can, there are a number of white nationalists who actually support much of the legislation in the Biden-Harris agenda, and they can be turned against Joe Manchin. This is full spectrum, last death cry rattle for the white nationalists. And so we have to understand, now is not the time to react out of emotion. Americans generally are politically immature, and Black America in this regard is no different. We didn't win in January. What we did was won the right to fight another round. And now we're engaged in a 20-month war. Right. And we said this, Roland, you've been saying this all along. We're in a 22-month war right now. If if they pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, it is going to be appealed to the Supreme Court, and they've got a 6-3 majority between Justice McConnell Gorsuch and Justice McConnell Barrett, along with Justice Beer Kavanaugh. They will, because remember, any Voting Rights Act is only pursuant to the power Congress has under Section 2 of the 15th Amendment. They will simply interpret it as being unconstitutional. There are 2 cases on the docket of the Supreme Court this session: Brnovich versus Democratic National Committee and Arizona GOP versus Democratic National Committee. Those are testing whether or not Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, as it currently exists, is constitutional. Look for Justice Clarence Thomas, who has a whole head made of bone, to stand with his racist friends in the deep Uncle Tom style, and do what he did in the case that we saw him write a dissent in this week, GOP versus DeGraff and Reed, where he said an election free from strong evidence of systemic fraud is not alone sufficient for election confidence. One of the most exquisitely absurd sentences in the history of SCOTUS jurisprudence. Why am I saying all this? I'm saying that voting is one tool in our battle, but this is not American Idol. This isn't a popularity contest. And if and when they pass these laws, this isn't the time to take it out on the people who we have elected. It is the time now to engage in an extraordinarily more significant fight and to expand the battlefield. Smiling Ben Sass, you punk. Young Josh Hawley, you punk. And all you racists on the GOP side who nobody ever even thinks to narrate in the calculus of who will and won't vote, your states are not lily white. I'll end with this. The striking thing now, when you read this DeGraff and Reed decision that came down this week, is that Alito, is that Gorsuch, is that Thomas, particularly Thomas, are willing to try to blunt the force of state Supreme Courts. Why? Because these white nationalists and their Tom servant understand this in the coming waves of what will happen in this little settler colony as it disintegrates. State court, Supreme Court justices, many of them are elected by statewide ballots, meaning you can't gerrymander them. You can't racially exclude them. So these legislatures that are passing these laws, if they're involving state constitutions, they can be blocked by state Supreme Courts. It's time for us not to get emotional. As John Clark, you say, don't get mad, get smart. It's time to up the tactical advantage and bust this little country out. It's going to fall either way. Be smarter than to think if you lose a battle, somehow you've lost the war. It's time to increase the engagement, not diminish it.
Absolutely. Folks, I told you this was going to happen, which means if you say a war is coming, prepare yourself, undergird yourself. And we're going to keep sounding this alarm. Mainstream media can keep doing what the hell they're doing. We're prepared. And if that means that we're going to take this show back to Georgia, to staying with folks there, we're going to do that. We're going to focus on what's happening in Pennsylvania. The same thing is happening there. We're going to use our power, which is why y'all have got to support what we do. Because what we're talking about here, folks, is our future and that of our children, our children's children. If the Republicans are able to use the power of political gerrymandering and lock these laws into place, you're talking about not only control for the next 10 years until the next United States Census, they're going to have it gerrymandered so bad that they're even talking about in Pennsylvania and other states going to district judges because they're angry at the state Supreme Court ruled against Republicans. That's how serious this is. I told y'all, they want to use the power of the judicial branch on the federal and the state level to keep in place white supremacy. So when America's and the nation majority of people of color by 2043, we are still going to be, frankly, slavery without shackles. That is their goal. And we're going to keep fighting that. Coming up next, we're going to talk about should Juneteenth become a national holiday. The woman who is speaking out, trying to make that happen. We'll talk with Oprah Lee next on Roland Martin Unfiltered, broadcasting live from Jacksonville, Florida. Back in a moment.
I grew up wanting a lot of activities
in my neighborhood that was in close proximity. You know, my mom wasn't always there, so I didn't always have a ride to places. And, you know, you want to be able to walk down the street and get to something that's some food for your soul in your community. You know, I relish, you know, the days of being in Clarksdale, Mississippi, and when I had to go out there and live with my people, they had actually black-owned corner stores. My uncle owned one. My Uncle Donald owned a cleaners and a corner store, and he a city councilman down there now. And it's like, that was big for him. He was like, yo, man, you got to own something. Got to own something. His wife was named Louise. It always killed me. I used to call him George Jefferson, and his name was Donald, because his wife was named Louise. And that was big to see my family own and stuff. And it just cultivated what my dad told me. My dad, it's not a lot. He didn't say a lot of good stuff, but the three things that he did give me: play chess, so you'll be a thinker. You don't have to work for nobody. He told me that. He said, you don't have to work for nobody. The same energy that you put into for somebody else, you can put that same energy into it for yourself. And then he'll go into his spiel. See, they talking about black people don't want to work. Black people just don't want no job. You know what I'm saying? We don't work for nobody else. We want our own stuff. That's it. Give me my own stuff. I come to work every day. You know what I'm saying? he going through his own spiel. And, like, I don't work for anybody.
I'm Deion Cole, and you're watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Stay woke.
All right, folks, welcome back. Jacksonville, Florida. Roland Martin Unfiltered, broadcasting from here. Juneteenth. I'm a native of Texas. We were the first state to make Juneteenth a federal holiday. It is the only state, it's the only actually holiday that actually recognizes or speaks to slavery. Now, keep in mind, we're celebrating a holiday where black people in Texas found out 2 years late, okay, 1865. And so after Texas made a state holiday, thanks to the late Representative Al Edwards, my frat brother, other states began to celebrate Juneteenth in different ways. Now, there's an effort, folks want to make it a national holiday. Now, y'all might remember when that fool Donald Trump said that part of his Live Black Platinum plan would make Juneteenth a national holiday. It actually could already be a national holiday if Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin would not have blocked it in the United States Senate. Well, Opal Lee, many call her the grandmother of Juneteenth. She, of course, has been traveling around the country trying to make this an issue. She was in Washington, D.C. today at a news conference at the National Press Club. She joins us right now on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Opal, how you doing?
I'm alive and kicking. What about you?
I am doing great. And so, again, look, I'm 52 years old. I've been celebrating Juneteenth my whole life, being a native of Texas. And so for a lot of people who didn't know about Juneteenth, it was a way of life for us black Texans. And so your effort, trying to make this a national holiday, how's it going thus far?
Today was a red letter day because the House and the Senate have put the bill up again. And so we are rolling. We figure we're going to have Juneteenth a national holiday by Juneteenth 2021.
So, look, it's not like it can't get passed. And so who is leading the legislation? Who do you think is going to make it happen?
Well, in the House, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee is heading that. And in the Senate, we've got Tina Smith, and Martin, and Cornyn, Those are the ones in the Senate who are backing it.
So again, it is something that's important,
don't let me
but
forget
beyond
Cory
just.
Booker.
Go ahead. You said Senator Cory Booker. Go ahead.
He's the one backing it too. So all these good people, it means that soon and very soon we're going to have it a national holiday. And the fact that some 49 states have some type of celebration of Juneteenth and all overseas. So it's long overdue.
I certainly agree with you. It is long overdue. We appreciate all the work that you're putting into traveling this country, trying to make Juneteenth become a national holiday.
I thank you for letting your viewers know, and we need everybody and his daddy to go and sign our petition, to Juneteenth.us and find the link where they can sign the petition, and that will make us have another 1.5 million signatures to take to Congress, and they won't think it's just one little old lady and her group trying to make it June holiday.
All right, then. Opal Lee, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Love you.
Thank you. Love you as well. You take care. Greg Lee, I want to start with, Greg Carr, I'm sorry, I want to start with you. From a historical standpoint, again, when you think about how this country has frankly ignored the reality, the impact of slavery in this country, people of African descent, when you look at what this, like in many ways, what this country has done to acknowledge the Holocaust, which didn't happen here, it happened in Germany. And I know some look at Juneteenth from a festive standpoint, but because when blacks found out they were actually were free, what value do you see, Dr. Carr, in Juneteenth becoming a national holiday in the United States?
I think the value is to white people, and that's not a bad thing. If you want to have a country, you have to create a national identity. This country doesn't have one. It's not a nation. It's a state with many different nations in it. Juneteenth is a ritual that many of us, and you've been doing it your whole life as a Texan, many of us have always celebrated with Kwanzaa. Emancipation Day used to be, now Watch Night into January 1st, so forth and so on. If making it a federal holiday, and can't nobody be mad at Ms. Lee, Opal Lee, come on, y'all, Opal Lee for president, come on now. But by embracing traditions from the various nations that make this country up, the country begins to establish itself as a nation. So, Ron Johnson, a human joke who will soon be washed away with the Senate election in 2022 in Wisconsin, Ron Johnson is standing for the country in his mind. This is a white man's country in Ron Johnson's rotting mind, and as he dies and turns to dust, along with that mentality, he will be replaced by those who will continue to celebrate the things that they hold dear to themselves, meaning that the only thing in question will be whether or not this country will expand itself in a way to share in these rituals so that then that can be used as symbolic momentum to generate symbolic momentum for the type of deep structural change that has to happen in order for this to remain a country. So really passing Juneteenth as a national holiday would benefit white folk as much as it would black folk, because we're going to celebrate it anyway.
Erica.
Well, I have to say, just looking at Mother Opal Lee, and I did watch the event at the press club, one of the things that stood out to me was that this is a woman that is in her 90s that is still civically engaged. And if the message of civic engagement had to look like a person, it would be Mother Opal Lee, who has not only traveled the country, but has walked and that knows the legislators who are key in order to making bill pass. I think that Ms. Lee should really convict people who are not engaged in the semblance of democracy that remains of not doing anything. If you have someone who is in her 90s that has seen this country through a lens that none of us has seen, but that is still moving. She's still pressing. She's still moving forward. With that kind of bout of energy, everybody ought to be engaged. As much as you've talked about, Roland, throughout the years, the importance of the vote, the importance of being engaged, the importance of understanding how political power and the mechanisms of those work, we have that in Mother Opal Lee. And so I would say, I'm going to just end with this. One of the things that she said that really touched me, when she tore off her mask and got into the mic, I just want to repeat back. She said, never before have millions been aware of the atrocities that happened to the enslaved or the blatant disregard for human life that is now occurring, a residual effect of slavery and a carryover of a slave mentality that has a vice grip on all of America. Get engaged.
One of the things that jumps out at me, Reese, when we talk about this conversation, the country has never wanted to confront its past. And make it a national holiday, you force America to have to say slavery once a year. You force America to have to require learning modules. You force America to have to confront it. And you force corporate America, who think they probably will salivate on this, to think they're going to come pimp us with Juneteenth. Let's be clear. I've been noticing all these corporations all of a sudden trying to embrace Juneteenth. But but who are you spending your money with? Are you spending it on mainstream? Are you spending it in black communities? Are you only giving black organizations $10,000 for a table or making monetary donations? But are you truly funding black organizations and black businesses and opportunities along those lines? See, that's the whole deal. Later in the show, we're gonna have a conversation about shows on Netflix and black content creators. But I sent Netflix a text message and an email, and I sent to Bazoma, the chief marketing officer, saying, "What's y'all black spin on black media? You want it's like you want folks to watch your content, but what are you spending your money on?" See, again, I keep coming back to the money, because if you don't deal with the money, then Reese, you were ignoring that they were dealing with the money with us when it came to people of African descent being slaves. We made capitalism real. We built the economic engine of this country. And so part of this push for Juneteenth being a national holiday is not saying, well, hey, let's have a day off, but it's to force America to say, you're going to have to reckon with your past.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do remember last year around the time where we had the racial, what we thought, or what was kind of somewhat of a racial reckoning, where Juneteenth all of a sudden was something that was recognized more. And it certainly was more corporate and monetized and things of that nature. And so one thing I do appreciate, at least about this push, is that it's not precipitated by black trauma or death. We've already had enough of that with slavery. That wasn't enough. We have to wait till another black person gets killed before we bring up these symbolic holidays and things like that. And I really couldn't have said it better than Dr. Carr or Erica about, Mother Opal Lee. She has been leading this charge for so long. And so I think that it's really important that we, talk about these things outside of the context of, the Black Lives Matter movement or just something that recently happened, but that this is an ongoing fight to have this country recognize the way that Black people have been treated in this country. And the last thing I'll say is I want to shout out VP Kamala Harris, because she was one of the co-sponsors of this legislation in the last session of Congress last year. And so I'm interested to see what Majority Leader Schumer does, because, what Republicans have been able to do, at least while Mitch McConnell was the majority leader, was feign this whole filibuster. And then that was it. It was dead in the water. So I'm interested to see if Chuck Schumer refuses to get rid of the filibuster, how he's going to work around not having necessarily 60 votes. Juneteenth might have 60 votes because, as Mother Opal Lee pointed out, there are multiple Republican co-sponsors, particularly from Texas, with Texas John Cornyn. So there is something that maybe they can do. But, it's only taken one person to block the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, to block the anti-lynching legislation that Senator Kamala Harris and Cory Booker put together, and to block the Juneteenth legislation. And so I'm interested to see what is Majority Leader Chuck Schumer going to do so that you force people to take these votes, you force these debates, and you force an actual vote on the legislation and not letting one Republican hold things up and then we move on and change the subject?
Yes.
Folks, let's go to Denver, where investigators have released findings in the fatal arrest of Elijah McClain. The findings criticize how they faulted police for the entire incident, including their quick, aggressive treatment of McClain, who would have turned 25 years old today. The investigation that was commissioned by the city of Aurora found two contrasting stories about what happened to McClain in August of 2019 after someone reported him as suspicious. One, based on officer statements to investigators, where police described a violent, relentless struggle. Another, based on body camera footage, in which McClain can be heard crying out in pain, apologizing, explaining himself, and pleading with the officers as they restrained him, applied pain compliance techniques, and sat or kneeled on him. City management is reviewing the findings to determine what the next step should be. As of right now, there are several other investigations into his death. The Colorado Attorney General's office is pursuing a criminal investigation. The Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment is investigating the use of ketamine, and the U.S. Attorney's Office, Department of Justice, and the FBI are all conducting a federal civil rights investigation. But the bottom line here, with all of that, Erica, he dead. Mama's in pain. Family's in pain. Cops have not been prosecuted. And so what we are probably going to likely find is, again, police killing another black man for no reason whatsoever other than being black. Same thing with the cops, where the grand jury declined to indict the cops in Rochester, New York. That particular case that came down a couple of days ago as well. Again, this becomes just repeated over and over and over again, the same reactions.
Yeah, as Reese just talked about, that precipitation of black trauma. This is something that has, we're used to, unfortunately, this hostility of law enforcement against the black body because of how they were birthed, right? They were birthed out of slave patrols. We've talked about that on this particular platform breathlessly. And until this institution, these taxpayer-funded servants, as they are supposed to operate, are actually held accountable, that they are no longer a death squad to the black body, killing black men, black women, accosting black children in our schools, putting a level of fear in black children that should be going to school to get their education and have the social aspect of school. Until that is scrapped, we will unfortunately continue to see this. You're thinking about Elijah McClain, and then we just had Ahmaud Arbery, who was killed not by police officers, but by somebody who did have some type of engagement with law enforcement here in just a year ago. And we're still awaiting justice for that particular case. So there has to be some level of responsibility that can be felt by those people who enter into agreements to protect and serve all people. Until that happens, until these police officers that dare take the life of a person, until they are held accountable. Unfortunately, I've just read another story today of a black man that was gunned down unarmed by a police officer. This will continue to be a part of the book of Black life, and it has to cease.
It is certainly sad that we're having to talk about today this particular story. Greg Carr, McClain should have been celebrating his 25th birthday.
Absolutely. Yesterday, the Secretary of State designee Anthony Blinken said that the United States is going to apply for readmission to the UN Human Rights Council. There are 3-year terms, and the United States is going to apply to be in one of the 3-year terms. I think the United States of America should be brought up on human rights abuses. When we see Brown versus Board of Education and the concessions, the legal concessions of the 1950s and 60s, a great deal of those concessions came because the United States was facing a changing world, the African independence movement, the Caribbean independence movement, Latin America, and they did not want to lose in the court of public opinion to Russia and China and other places. I think we make a mistake when we restrict our criticisms of these white nationalists who kill us with impunity we make a mistake when we appeal solely to the domestic tribunals at the local, state, and federal level. United States of America, as Malcolm X said in the 1960s, as Paul and S.E. Robeson and W.E.B. Du Bois and Shirley Graham Du Bois and William Patterson and Louise Thompson Patterson and many others said in the 1950s and 40s, should be brought up on charges in Geneva and in New York before the United Nations. So Secretary Blinken, yes, rejoin the UN Human Rights Council and save all the smoke you have for Cuba and Venezuela and protecting Israel. You save that smoke for the fact that the rest of us will now need to drag your naked country into the dock on the international level, whether you're signing a signatory of a human rights treaty or not, because you don't move in the United States until the world pays attention. That's an important thing I think we need to learn now, because there will be no justice. You can't bring him back to life at this point.
Reese, this is also why the pressure has to stay on, and also push the Department of Justice to be far more aggressive, which also means changing the laws to go after people for violating the civil rights of folks, and that's what we saw here.
Absolutely. I mean, the Department of Justice was a complete joke. Well, actually, it was doing what it was intended to do under the Trump white nationalist regime, which is to actually propagate white nationalism and abuse against black and brown bodies. But under the Biden-Harris administration, they do have some really solid people lined up, Vanita Gupta as well as Kristen Clark. Mm-hmm. But we see that they're the ones that are actually under attack by the Republicans in the Senate, even when it's a Merrick Garland hearing for Attorney General. And so I think this is one of the ways that the Republicans are kind of trying to obstruct and slow walk the progress that the Biden-Harris administration has in terms of the agenda for these consent decrees, for these investigations. But let's be honest, investigations do not bring back dead people, murdered people, lynched Black people. And so there has to be some sort of change. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act is a part of that. And that's something that President Biden tweeted about today. He's looking forward to signing. It's coming up potentially in the Senate next week. I think it's coming up in the House next week as well. And so we'll have to see what happens with that. But the reality of it is that we have a structural issue in our society that does not value Black lives. We have people who appoint themselves slave patrols. So it's not even just a police officer, a law enforcement issue. It's people who feel like Black people are not full citizens and that they have a right to control our whereabouts, to oversee us. And when they feel threatened or when they perceive a threat, whether it's real or not, they have a right to take action against that. That's something that's not going to be solved by legislation or even the Department of Justice.
All right, folks, going to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about City of Berkeley defunding the police, a very aggressive plan they're doing. That is next on Roland Martin Unfiltered, broadcasting live here in Jacksonville, Florida.
When you think about the fact that 2043, we are going to be a nation that's majority people of color. I've really focused on this a lot, on television, on radio, in my speeches. That my focus is trying to prepare us to have demographic power while also having educational, economic power at the same time. Because there's nothing worse than having demographic numbers, but then you still don't have that economic power, that political power, and education power.
Well, you and I think most people know and understand that education is what we've got to impress on all of our people. We've got to help people to understand that if you want a decent quality of life, if you want the kind of quality of life where you're not having to worry about your food and your nutrition and, being able to pay your bills or buy a house, then you've got to become educated. The more education you have, the larger the paycheck is. And of course, we've got to be involved in entrepreneurship, taking the talent that we have to create businesses. And there's a lot of opportunity for that.
Hi, I'm Vivian Green.
Hey everybody, this is your man Fred Hammond, and you're watching Roland Martin, my man, Unfiltered.
Welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered here in Jacksonville, Florida. The city of Berkeley, the city council there voted to end all traffic stops for low-level offenses such as not wearing a seatbelt or an expired license. Police will also need written consent for vehicle searches except under circumstances where consent is not legally required, and cops can also no longer conduct warrantless searches of people on parole or probation. The city council also voted to fire police officers that have published racist content online. These reforms follow protests against racist police violence across California and the country last summer. Common damn sense, Greg Carr. I mean, part of the problem that we have when we talk about these incidents is that they take place on basic stuff. The brother in Dallas, who was just Plano, Texas, who's just walking in the snow, who gets arrested. Thank God he wasn't killed. You take, of course, what happened with Elijah McClain. We could go on and on and on. It's these basic traffic stops that have Walter Scott that have led to folks being killed because these cops lose their damn mind.
Absolutely, Roland. I mean, and you teased the story by talking about what Berkeley may be doing and what defunding the police may look like. One of the things that they're adopting is they're investing in a specialized care unit to respond to mental health calls. In other words, they're going to move some of that budget from policing to that, and also transferring traffic enforcement duties to trained civilians. This is critical. And you know, it is common sense, but when you allow the power of enforcement for things that shouldn't require the use of deadly force or anything like that, you turn that over to somebody with a gun on their hip, you've set yourself up for this kind of thing. And so Berkeley is indeed giving us a window into the types of repurposing of resources that's what is meant by defund the police. Finally, in Alabama, we see in their state legislature, they're trying to pass some even more stringent laws. Mike Harriet was just reporting on this, attacking journalists and other people. They want to increase the type of violence. Ultimately, public policy is really about enforcing a cultural view, a world view. And in Berkeley, they seem to have the worldview of human beings, and they're taking a step in the right direction.
Reese, it's called law enforcement. And this, what this does is say, focus your damn resources on real crimes and not petty crap.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at it, a vast majority of crimes in this country go unsolved. So while people are out there harassing the hell out of somebody with a broken tail light or, you know, not having a seatbelt on, there's somebody out somewhere knocking somebody upside their head and getting away with it. And so the priorities are all messed up. So yeah, absolutely. I think it's great steps. And I think that these are tangible, you know, wins that people who like the sloganeering of defund the police can point to and say, this is exactly what we mean, because that's what should be happening. We have so many of these horror stories where people are having a mental episode, families are dealing with somebody having that, they call the police and their family member ends up dead. And now nobody, it just escalates the situation. Philando Castile is another person who was involved in a traffic stop and he was murdered from that. We have so many of these examples. Sandra Bland pulled over for what? Failure to signal change or something stupid like that. And next thing you know, she's dead in her jail cell. And so if you, to Dr. Carr's point, if you have somebody who isn't gut trigger happy or who isn't on a power trip, who thinks they can pull somebody over, particularly a black person, and harass the shit out of them and get their rocks off of, you know, wielding their authority. If you have a trained person who's really just there to handle the traffic stop and that's it, then we might see some different outcomes. So this is a great step forward, but we need a bigger emphasis on mental health and the mental health responses. And we need a bigger emphasis on enforcing safety. And that does not require an armed response in a vast majority of these cases.
And this point here, there are some other cities that are taking action. This is for all the people out there whining and complaining. We don't like the phrase defund the police. Well, fine. Call it whatever the hell you want to call it, but change the damn laws so you don't have these cops running amok, using the power of the gun and the badge, killing people. That's the real issue here, Erica.
Sure, and that person could be them or their family members. When you think about the state of California, there's only 6% of a Black population there, but Black folks account for 16% of the traffic stop. That is crazy. And then also, I'm thinking about all of the red light cameras, all of the cameras that we just have actively throughout our municipalities. Damn, send somebody a ticket. And if the ticket, not a ticket that has a financial burden on it, but perhaps a ticket where somebody could go and complete some type of community service to help uplift another community. There's so many other different ways to approach this. But as Reese has said, and Dr. Carr has said, that when we continue to know how this whole enforcement entrapment, what it was birthed out of, it was birthed out of slave patrols, the absolute authority to be deputized and control Black bodies. When that is admitted, and then there is a breaking from that, then I believe that we can actually conceptualize and actually do and actually have laws like this in several other municipalities, because it's definitely something that's necessary. Locking people up. We are a country that has the most folks incarcerated throughout the entire globe. These are common sense solutions that need to be adopted across municipalities.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And also, folks, our condolences go to D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, whose sister died of COVID, pushing D.C. past the 1,000 death mark. That is just so unfortunate. She actually spoke out about that, torn up by it. Of course, she died the same day they actually passed the 1,000 death. She was the mayor's only sister and died just short of her 65th birthday. This is what she said in a statement. Marcia was loved immensely and will be missed greatly as she joins the legions of angels who have gone home too soon due to the pandemic. Of course, the mayor also declared Wednesday a day of remembrance for more than 500,000 Americans and 1,000 D.C. residents who had died from COVID-19. Still, folks, significant impact. And so what we want you to do is while you're out there, please wear your mask, put on double mask, practice social distancing, take that COVID-19 vaccine. Am I going to take it? You damn right I'm going to take that. Because look, it's like living or death is really two options. In fact, and this is just something that's really critically important here. I got a text message today from one of my lawyers, Erica, who a year later has still massive problems after having COVID-19. It impacts people differently. And so when I hear some people say, hey, you know what, it wasn't a big deal, I got over it. Other people haven't had the same. I'm not trying to go either way. And so this is something we don't have time to be playing with when we talk about COVID-19.
Absolutely, Roland. And just even thinking about that, in 2.7 years, you just had a guest on last week, a doctor that talked about nearly 3 years of the life expectancy of Black folks has been chipped off because of COVID. And this is just based on the first 6 months of last year, 2020. That could actually go up. So when you think about that life or death piece, it's actually life or death for all of us. If there's also responsibility that we have to not only ourselves, but to everybody else, because last year, in 2020, I believe it was about 80% of COVID deaths were folks that were 65 years and older. And so you're talking about generations of parents, generations of grandparents, elders that are dying, and not just them, young people, middle-aged people as well. And so the long-term COVID effects, that is something that we're starting to see. I know that there was a story on this week that I was watching, a woman who was a marathon runner, a frequent runner, extraordinarily healthy, a year later has a really hard time taking 6 feet up a hill. She can't do it. And it is her desire to be able to run or just to take steps without having to beg for air, so to speak, that she's isolated herself. Her mental health has declined as well. We still have people that don't have sense of taste or smell. We have folks that their lung capacity is greatly diminished. There is a lot still to yet be discovered because this is still a novel virus. And so it behooves all of us to make sure, as you said, to double mask, to make sure that we're washing our hands, and that access to the vaccine, if it's in your community, to please make sure that you get all of the research that you can to make sure that you're up to speed on vaccine awareness and get the vaccine.
Bottom line is, this is nothing to play with, Reese. It's as simple as that. And too many of us are dying prematurely. And it's important for us to keep this front and center and not lose focus.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. A lot of attention is brought on these anecdotal cases of, oh, this person had these side effects from the vaccine, or this person died shortly after in the ballpark of having the vaccine. And not enough attention is paid to the fact that the 7-day daily average of deaths in this country is over 2,000 still. There's 70,000 cases on average every single day. And we still haven't seen the full impact of these various mutations that are starting to spread in smaller locations, or I shouldn't say small locations, but in smaller cases, but we haven't seen them yet. In these cases, these mutations we know, or these variants, are more infectious and more contagious. And so we have to keep our foot on the gas, and we have to bring that much more attention to the fact that people are still dying. And here's another thing. The vaccines haven't been tested, or they're not available for children. What we do know is that Black and brown children actually account for a vast majority of the juvenile and child deaths. And so that means that parents, if you can stop your child from getting it, or if you can stop yourself from being more susceptible to getting it, it doesn't necessarily prove that you can't transmit it, but it's more proof than not that it's more effective. There's more evidence coming out that it is effective in stopping transmission. So there are things that you can do for your children who can't take the vaccine. And so we have to really be vigilant here. If you don't want to take it, that's on you. But at a bare minimum, please do not spread disinformation and misinformation about the vaccine. Do not spread disinformation and misinformation about treatment, about prevention for the COVID-19 vaccine. A lot of the stuff that people are saying, and I just tweeted about this other day, about zinc and vitamin C and all these things, all you have to do is simply Google it, and it'll come up showing that these are not proven effective measures at preventing or solely treating, okay? Now, your doctor might say do that in addition to steroids and other medication that they're giving you. But like I said, and I'm not trying to be funny, juices and berries is not going to save you from getting vaccine. Drinking hot ass tea, like T.I. said, is not going to save you from getting vaccine, getting COVID. So we have to just be science-based. We have to be logic-based, and we have to do what we can to protect ourselves.
Greg Carr?
No, I agree. I mean, I do not shoot stuff in my arm. You take out the mandatory school shots, and I don't get the flu shot. I don't get anything, like that. However, we are in a moment when as you said, we're talking about life and death. So yeah, I'm gonna take the shot when my opportunity comes. We're also in a capitalist society. So yes, we see AstraZeneca, we see but we also see Johnson & Johnson on the verge of a one-shot COVID vaccine that seems to be highly effective, particularly against more severe forms of COVID-19. 86% efficacy against severe forms of COVID-19 in the U.S. and 82% against the severe disease in South Africa, where the new strain has caused the South African government to say, okay, the AstraZeneca is not working, the two dose. Why am I saying that? I'm saying the market will continue to push. These companies are going to continue to push to perfect these vaccines. I'll end with this. We don't know how long the vaccines will be good for. In other words, is it a 1-a-year shot? Is it going to get to do it every 4 months or so forth? We know now that as we're sitting on about 1.5 million, between 1.5 million and 1.7 million shots administered a day in this country, kind of slowed because of the weather crisis over the last couple of weeks. We know that it looks like folks are going to be able to get this vaccine. Get the vaccine. And that's from somebody that nobody shoot nothing in their arm. So trust me, everybody talking about conspiracies. Oh, it's not a conspiracy. I'm Black in America. I know damn well they experiment on us. I know damn well. But if you're shooting in your arm, then I'm gonna shoot it in mine. Yeah. Because I'm not sure. I'm not sure that they don't have a vaccine yet. We don't know whether these are good for a year or not. We don't know how long that we're going to have to do this, but I know that I want to stick around. And so I'm with you, brother. I'm with y'all, sis. I mean, look, you got to take the vaccine.
In fact, tomorrow on Roland Martin Unfiltered, we'll show you some of what Andrew Young had to say about why he took the vaccine. You saw a little bit of that on Tuesday. We have more of that tomorrow. Got to go to a break. We come back. We'll talk new Netflix show, reality show on a Black funeral home. That is next. Also, folks, don't forget it. We want you to support what we do here, Roland Martin Unfiltered, bring you the kind of content and the panel and discussion you're not going to get anywhere else. So please be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club by supporting us. Go to Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal.me/R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo.com /RM Unfiltered. Of course, you can use Zelle by seeing the email is roland@rolandsmartin.com. Plus, you can send a money order to New Vision Media, Inc., 1625 K Street Northwest, Suite 400, Washington, D.C., 2006. All right, folks, I'll be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. For me, the reason I see the value, so my parents worked elections. They volunteered for campaigns. They ran phone banks. I remember being 7, 8, 9 years old. It was like you had no choice. It's not like you had a vote. It was like, yo, go over there for the next 8 hours, stand there and hand out these pamphlets to anybody who's walking in, and then we'll bring you lunch, and then you got some water for yourself. It's kind of like, okay. Again, that was what wasn't like my brother could say, nah, we're all right. We gonna stay at the house. It didn't work that way. And so for me, that was a huge part of my upbringing.
And look at you now. And it's very interesting because for me, service was a huge part of my upbringing. And that's just something that's just, it's a natural thing. I don't think twice about going out and doing community service. I don't think twice about giving up my Saturday mornings, even if I stayed out late on Friday nights. I don't think twice about going to church in the mornings. I think that might be even bigger than the civics piece in schools. I mean, I think that at this point, having that in schools at least gives the children the opportunity to go home and ask their parents, so Mom, Dad, what is this? What do you think we should do about this? This is what I learned in school today. Let's talk about it. At least gives the children something to bring home and start a conversation with. However, if the parents start that for the children, then the children can go to school and say, hey, why am I not learning this here? Why don't I have a civics class? You know what I mean? And we'll have more Roland Martins running around here.
Hi, I'm El DeBarge.
Hey, yo, Peace World. What's going on? It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, you've seen a lot of different streaming services and a whole lot these days. You got Netflix, you got Hulu, you got Prime Video, you got Paramount Plus, you got BT Plus, let's see, you got HBO Max, you got Apple Plus. We're about to have more streaming services than we actually have cable channels, and lots of Black content. Black people watch TV more than anybody else, and so all these people are targeting African Americans. There's a show called Buried by the Bernards on Netflix. Check this out.
I can put you on the transportation team. You can pick the families up.
No.
You can drive them to the cemetery. You can drive them to the church.
Last time you had me in the cemetery, my heels got all muddy because it was raining.
My name is Ryan Bernard. I'm the owner at R. Bernard Funeral Services. This is my office, the VIP suite.
My dad started this business so we could carry on his legacy and pass it down.
I want to introduce you all to my Uncle Kevin.
Hey there, how you doing, man? I'm here to pick up a body. I want the head to be straight, okay? If his head crooked, it should be like this. When they get ready to bomb it, it'd be hard to turn the neck, so you keep your neck straight. You got it?
And in this office, we have my mother.
Zip it.
Kim Jong-un, Mussolini, Stalin, and Debbie Bernard.
I'm your mama. I'm the boss. After I die, I'm still the boss.
Pick up a body?
Yeah.
And it's gonna be in the back of here?
Yeah, we gonna put it back. Where else he going?
Kevin, my Gucci purse is back there.
Yeah, I thought you quit.
I quit every day.
Compared to me, I think they're extremely lazy.
All I want from this woman is a little respect.
Wait for a second.
Good. Of course, the show is about a family that manages a budget-friendly funeral home. Warren Robinson is the producer of the show, and he's joining us right now. Warren, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good, Roland. How are you?
Great. We've seen similar shows. I forgot the network. There was a funeral home out of Dallas that I'm very familiar with. They were on that particular show. You say it took quite a while to get this on air. Now, of course, you have all these services out here. Everybody and their mom is looking for black content. And so just talk about that process.
Oh, man. So I actually met the Bernard family back in 2018. It took a while in the process, just kind of convincing them to even go along with it, man, because they are not television people, right? They're just down there running their business. And here comes somebody saying, hey, I want to sell you to a network. I want to put you on television. And so we had to convince them to go along with that process and convince them it was okay. And so had a little hiccup there, but we got them on board, sent it out, and got a lot of rejections. But then Netflix came in and said, you know what, hey, we want to put this on. So it from 2018 to 2021 before you're actually seeing it.
So all of these streaming services and networks and folks, again, targeting black content. But I got to ask you, what are black content providers also saying to these companies about their practices beyond the content? Are you asking them, are they advertising with black media? What are they doing to get the word out? Or are they only spending their dollars on mainstream media? So are they also being challenged on how they're circulating dollars where it's not just on the content side, but on the business side too?
Well, actually, I heard that, Roland, and I heard you bring that up, and that's a very valid point that I think you and everybody should be pressing on and saying, hey, if you are creating black shows, starring black people for black eyes, are you also making sure that those dollars are being spread to the black community? And that especially includes black media. So I hope that the networks and the streaming services are actually doing that. And it's all up to all of us to kind of hold their feet to the fire on that. We as content producers ourselves, we have, very little say. I don't work with the departments that handle any of the media and all that. We have our execs who work in our specific departments. That's kind of who we report to. And, we definitely throw in words and say, hey, we want to make sure that we're targeting here. We want to make sure that we're marketing here. But outside of that, it's completely up to the executives at each of the companies to make those decisions. And so what we have to make sure that we're doing is that we are getting executives of color who are in those positions, who are going to reach out and say, you know what, we are going to spend that money with black media.
Well, and that's the piece there, because again, I think what also we have to make sure on the production end of these shows that we're seeing black folks behind the camera, not just as producers, not just black executives, but my whole deal is who are the audio people, who are the lighting people, who are the folks who are shooting, all of that, the caterers, the limousine company, because there's an entire industry that's behind the camera that we also are not being targeted.
Absolutely. And it's a lot of money behind the camera, as you say. And so one of the great things about being a black content creator is that you are able to kind of have that sway and that influence. And so you are able to say, listen, we need to make sure that we're hiring some black people for these roles here. And that's one of the things that I insisted upon. And so you're able to open those doors and give opportunities to a lot of other up and coming black people who are trying to work behind the scenes as camera operators or as story producers or whatever the case may be. Because if no one opens the doors, then they don't get chances. I remember some of the producers talking about the fact that there is a rumor, I don't know if it's true, that the streaming services won't even hire you if you've never worked on a streaming service before. Well, somebody has to give you that first opportunity. Somebody has to open that door so that you can work on these kind of shows, so you can keep getting those jobs. And so that's one of the things that, I was glad that we pushed for in saying, you know what, no, we're going to have black people behind the camera in as many roles as we can fill them in.
All right, then. And so how many episodes of Buried by the Bernards are there?
There are 8 episodes on Netflix right now.
All right. Warren Robinson, we surely appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you, Roland. I appreciate it.
All right, then. Look at my panel here. Greg Carr, the thing the reason I keep really focusing on this is because, again, it's how is one making a deliberate effort to use whatever influence they have to ask the necessary questions. To begin to say that, sure, I want to see more black executives with Netflix, but I also want to see how you spending the money. I want to know, okay, and again, and let me be real clear, Reed Hastings, the CEO of Netflix, last year announced that Netflix was depositing $100 million in black banks. They announced the initiative that they were engaged in. That's the kind of stuff that we have to talk about. That's literally what Dr. King was talking about on April 3rd, 1968, in terms of depositing money in black banks. That's literally what Operation Breadbasket was doing. But Operation Breadbasket was saying, we want jobs, we want you working with black businesses, putting money in black banks, making investment. We are driving these streaming services, these networks, with our eyeballs. I'm saying the same thing about Starz and Showtime and HBO and Netflix and Hulu and Prime and all the new ones coming along. And what I'm saying to black people, if you're giving somebody your eyeballs, but they're not spending money on folk who look like you, what we are doing, Greg, is making other folks rich. And again, monetizing black culture and black people holistically, not a portion of it, holistically benefiting.
Oh, no question, brother. We know that black folk have been the entertainment in this white nationalist country since the beginning. So whether it be Norman Lear and everything from Good Times to the Jeffersons and All in the Family at CBS, whether it be Fox with In Living Color, Living Single, whether it be NBC with 227 and The Cosby Show, A Different World, these networks have always harvested black talent for profit. And what you see in the cable area, certainly Comedy Central, certainly Bravo with the Real Housewives franchise, they have now perfected shrinking the necessary investments to pay talent. Reality shows are a form of entertainment sharecropping. They take maybe $100,000 to $500,000 an episode to produce, and they get product placement. You've got ad revenue coming in, and people just glad to be there. So the question then becomes, how, as you say, do we leverage, if we can leverage it all, the type of influence that we might have for a split second to transfer some of this insane amount of revenue that is streaming into the pockets of these folks into our communities? I don't know that we have a good answer for that, but I think part of it requires those who are the folks who are the producers and others to say, if you don't do this, we'll move to another platform. Because capitalism, ultimately, you're jailbreaking it now with Roland Martin Unfiltered. You can put a reality show on YouTube. Look at the career of Issa Rae that begins with Awkward Black Girl. I think we have to really take a step back, if we can, as a group, and think about the entertainment sharecropping model of reality TV, which is nothing but a pure profit endeavor by these broadcast networks and all platforms to get the maximum amount of profit from the minimum form of investment.
Reese, I remember when Michael B. Jordan announced what he was going to require working for this diversity, this equity, I forgot what they called, race rider, whatever they called it. I remember Regina King talked about that as well, and folks were talking about they want to see a certain percentage of folks on the cruise who are women and who are also black and Latino and using their power. What I am saying to these folks as well is that if you're a Michael B. Jordan, let me actually back that up, because I'm going to use Michael Jordan the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And for everybody listening, I need y'all to understand there's a difference between influence leverage, and
Yes,
power.
sir.
Right.
I need everybody who's watching, so let me unpack this for y'all. There is influence, there is leverage, and there is power. Some people kept saying Michael Jordan is the most powerful basketball player in the NBA. They're wrong. Michael Jordan had influence.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jordan had leverage. Michael Jordan did not have power.
Mm-hmm.
If Michael Jordan had power, Michael could have said, team ain't breaking up. If Michael had power, Michael would have said, y'all gonna give Scotty the contract that he deserves. He didn't. In fact, Michael did not have power when he was an executive with the Washington Wizards. He came out of retirement, played ball, sold the arenas out. Then when he finished playing basketball the second time, Jordan then said that he was going to play basketball the third time. He then goes into a meeting with Ted Leonis.
Come on, brother.
Who was a minority owner of the team. And they went in and met with Abe Pollin. Abe Pollin, Reese, was the owner of the Washington Wizards. Michael tells Abe, I'm ready to resume my job as head of basketball operations. Abe says, Michael, we thank you for what you've done. We're moving in another direction. Here's a check for $10 million and thank you for your services. Michael looked at Ted Leonis like, what the hell is going on here? Ted Leonis looked at Michael like, I don't know what the hell is going on here. And Michael got pissed off, got up and walked out the meeting, got in his Jaguar and drove off, left a $10 million check on the table. Abe Pollin taught Michael Jordan a lesson. Your ass don't have power. I do, because power just fired you. Now let me bring this thing back to what I was talking about with Michael B. Jordan. There is no movie without Michael B. Jordan. Oh, you can go hire some other folk, but actors should be looking at themselves as, he should look at himself as Michael B. Jordan, Inc.
That's right.
And a Michael B. Jordan, Inc. should do this here. Y'all want Michael B. Jordan to be in your movie, right? Okay. Here is my diversity index, my race equity index. So I want, Erica, these number of people, I need to see these folks on the set. Do y'all have a list of diverse caterers? We gonna need some diverse caterers. Your transportation company, do you have a list of diverse transportation providers? I'm gonna need you to do that. Your travel agents, do you have a list of diverse travel agents? Okay, I need to see that. Oh, hold up now. While we also on this, I need to know who we marketing this movie to, and then what black media outlets are being invited to the press junkets. How much money of the advertising budget is going to be spent on black media outlets? See, some of y'all not paying attention who are watching because y'all didn't hear what I just said. Roland wasn't selfish saying what y'all gonna do for Roland when it comes to black media. No, I said black media, catering, limousine contracts, travel contracts. I'm talking about, see, do y'all see me? This is how it needs to be. It needs to be 360. It needs to be 360. Let me go the other way for some of y'all. It needs to be 360. It needs to be 360. That's how black creators should be coming to the table and saying, okay, if you're Jordan Peele, I've got a Amazon Prime Video deal. If you are Donald Glover, Erica, I just signed a new deal with Prime Video. If I'm Shonda Rhimes before the Netflix, oh, y'all trying to recruit me for this deal, I need to know 360 all of these things happening, because if y'all want my talent, I got to make sure my people are getting paid. Reese, go ahead.
Absolutely. I think that, it's all about, like you said, it's leveraging your power. And, unfortunately, not all black actors, even ones that we look at as powerhouses, have that power or that leverage. Today, I just saw an article about how Taraji P. Henson got paid $40,000 for The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and that movie went on to make $350 million. I saw yesterday about how a comedian, and I forget her name at the moment, I think Brenda Jones from Mad TV, found out that a peer of hers that came on after hers made more money than her. And when she asked to renegotiate her salary, they told her, no, absolutely not. And so I agree with everything you said. I can't restate it better than you, and I can't even add on to it better than you. So what I will say is, going back to the point I've been making many times on this show, is about validating black outlets.
Come on, Lisa.
Like Kev on Stage, who created his own app from scratch. He does exactly what you're talking about, Roland. He hires black crews. He's owning his content. He's putting on other comedians in the middle of a pandemic, paying them well, and he's really creating this whole pool of talent around him, and everybody wins in every aspect, 360 degrees. But you don't see a Kev on Stage nominated for an NAACP Image Award, or you don't see him getting the kind of mainstream, and mainstream attention that he deserves. And so the same goes to Roland Martin Unfiltered and other black outlets, black-owned outlets. And so what I would encourage the audience to do, and what I would encourage these celebrities who have influence to do, is to put some of their efforts behind validating these black outlets that are actually about paying, uplifting, and bringing black dollars to black people. Because one last point I'll make, I saw a thread from this white woman who was a comedian on Netflix, and she had a special that was on Netflix. And one of the things she said, and it could have just been her deal, it might not have been everybody's deal, is that she doesn't get any residuals from her special. She sold her show to Netflix, and so after that, she don't get paid from it. And so even when it looks like somebody has made it, oh, they have a Netflix show, oh, they have a this show, or they have a that show, if you're not continuing to get residuals like Dave Chappelle brought attention to as well with the Chappelle Show, then you're still not profiting. And so that's where owning your own stuff, having your own platform, is really the key to financial independence. And it's really the key to cooperative economics and putting other black people on so that everybody gets a piece of that pie.
Erica.
Yeah, amen and hallelujah to what Reese laid out and the power dynamics that you laid out for us, Roland. And this goes back to what we were just talking about on last week when you talked about the Black collective. There has to be an interest in doing that. What Kev on Stage did was very deliberate. And if there is an interest in being deliberate and building power and making sure, as it's been said on this show, that if you're saying that it's lonely at the top, then dummy, you didn't bring anybody with you. That should really be an offense, right? So when you look at the ways with which this white gaze, and Dr. Carr mentioned it on last Saturday on in class with Dr. Carr, talked about the whole white famous piece. There's nothing wrong with fame across all spectrum, but to actually sit in and say that, okay, I made it now that these people, as Reese has talked about, validated me. There's something demonstratively wrong with that, and that's problematic. So as we continue to really engage and really make sure that models like the one that you have example for everyone, Kev on Stage, as Reese brought forward, Issa Rae, as Dr. Carr talked about, when we see those models, if people are really interested, because I don't know that everybody is interested, but if people are really interested in actually building the collective, that what you just laid out and the examples that are before us, that's the way to do it.
See, Greg, See, Greg, what I'm really laying out is for those of us who have amassed that level of influence and leverage to wield it. What I'm talking about is to literally say, ain't nothing moving unless this happens. See, what I'm talking about is a shift. I ain't trying, let me see. I'm not trying to do this here. Switch to this camera up here, please. Switch to me up here. I ain't trying to do this. I'm just gonna give y'all this is what I think, Greg, folk trying to do. They trying to slightly move. I'm talking about taking this tray and throwing this son of a bitch way across the room. I'm talking about literally taking it apart and just slinging it. I'm talking about completely wrecking this whole joint. See, Greg, they ain't got no problem if we want to come in here inching. No, this ain't the moment for inching. Greg, this is the moment to literally walk in the room like this here. We ain't signing no deal until all of these things are done.
Yes, sir.
Then if you black, and if you got a content deal at Paramount Plus, at HBO Max, at Hulu, at Prime Video, use the Netflix deal saying, let me ask y'all a question. Are y'all gonna deposit $100 million in black banks like Reed Hastings and Netflix did? I need everybody to listen to what I'm saying. I'm gonna name them. Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video, Apple Plus, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Paramount Plus. I just named 7. Discovery is coming on with their own. That's 8. I need everybody listening to me. That's 8. I know there are others. I'm just gonna name those 8. Netflix announced we gonna put $100 million in black banks. They've now established the floor. So if you a black content provider, you should say, y'all gonna have to at least match that. That means that the black content people in Hollywood, if they challenge, I'll throw in Apple, that Apple Plus I mentioned, you throw them in, you could now go from $100 million placed in black banks to $800 million placed in black banks. You can now cause them to have to go out and hire a plethora. Now, when you tell the companies, you got to have a race index for all of your productions. Now, all of a sudden, you got to dramatically increase black limousine company business and black catering business and all that sort of stuff. That's all I'm saying. Stop moving this son of a bitch an inch or two. Say we about to sit here and just shift the whole damn game.
Roland, first of all, brother, I thought you was gonna throw that stand into the pool. That's why I was waiting for that move. That's number one. I was gonna get that out of the way.
You understand? I got 2 iPads, 2 phones on here, and so no, that wasn't about to happen. But trust me, I was thinking it.
But I'm laughing, but it really builds to a point. Bob Marley once sang, "Old pirates, yeah, they rob I." Sold out to the merchant ship. You understand?
Yeah, yeah.
That was a song called Redemption Song. Now, if you watched Dave Chappelle a couple of weeks ago in his mini monologue of the same name, Redemption Song, he talked, now that's how you wield influence. This guy was basically tethered to a contract he had signed with Comedy Central and HBO. Using the momentum of his platform and his popularity, he forced them to pay him because he told all of his fans to stop watching. Now that's one way of doing it. But I laughed because I thought about the pool, because I thought to myself, everybody watching this, everybody watching us right now, everybody who watches Roland Martin Unfiltered every day, and then 24 hours in terms of the replays, the broadcast and everything, everybody watching and getting the soothing sound of that waterfall there in Jacksonville. Understand this.
It is nice.
Y'all paid for that, ain't it nice? Y'all paid for that. Meaning what? When Roland Martin comes in a room, he can take it or leave it. See, the importance of being able to do that means that, Netflix, $100 million. Okay, Netflix made $25 billion. Billion would it be last year. So you got to at least match that, but make no mistake about it. When you don't use your influence, you end up being what Bill Rhoden and them might call, or Kurt Flood might call originally, a well-paid slave. Ooh. Now, Roland Martin is owned by all of us who invest in him. So when you sit at the table, you can wield an influence that allows you to take it or leave it, but also, and I'll end here, this is why everybody watching this has to support this platform. Your influence, like Dave Chappelle's influence, is based on the fact that when people hear you, they trust you, they rely on if Roland Martin said it, I may not agree with everything he said, but I trust he's saying it because he's thinking about our best interests. And when you have that kind of trust, you can either, to kind of paraphrase Frantz Fanon, you can either fulfill the investment of trust people give you, or you can betray it. There's no middle ground. And at some point, you got to choose. So invest in something that people own. Invest in Roland Martin Unfiltered, and we kick in the door. You ain't got to worry about it. All you're going to hear is the company saying, "Papa, don't hit me no more." You understand?
And what people have to understand is, and I certainly understand what that brother was talking about when he said how long it took. What I'm trying to get our folk to realize, I'm trying to get our people to realize that I'm not waiting for somebody to give me a green light.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not waiting for somebody to say, "You ready?" I'm not waiting for somebody to say, "We'll fund it." I'm not waiting for somebody to say, "It's now time."
That's it.
What I'm trying to get everybody to understand is that when black people who have built their names and they've got following, to what Greg said with Dave Chappelle, I didn't text Dave Chappelle. I sent him an audio file. I said, "I got to talk this one." What Dave Chappelle, see, y'all gonna make me preach this. What Dave Chappelle did was activate his base. That's and right. He unleashed them on Netflix and HBO.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He said, "I'm about to show y'all," and he said to audience, I need y'all not to watch.
That's right.
What happened? We told Netflix, "Can y'all kindly take that down?" The CEO of Netflix wasn't crazy.
Nope.
Because they've already invested. They invested more money in Dave Chappelle than he made from the Comedy Central show. He wasn't crazy enough to say we're going to keep running the Chappelle Show to make Comedy Central happy, because he said, hell, I'm not going to have Dave Chappelle walk away from me and take his talents and his followers and their eyeballs to another streaming service. And so now all of a sudden, they now making the money. So they said, hell yeah, we going to take this thing down. Is how we going to do it. Y'all, that's called using your influence and your leverage and then talking to power. And so what I'm saying is, to all of these black actors and black actresses and black producers who all have made these lists on the Rap and Variety and the Hollywood Reporter and Deadline, the most influential, powerful people, and this is that and the other, what I'm saying is, I need you to come to the table in your full blackness. I need you to walk to the table and walk in your full authority. I'm trying to get you to walk in the room and say, we're not about to have a conversation just about me. I want to know, are you putting money in black banks? Are you helping black caterers and black limousine companies? And coming out with do a roll call, because now what you're doing is you're forcing them to realize how they have been ignoring and denying black folks in so many areas. And that's how you take the collective and then you begin to build the village, and you then begin to take it further. And imagine what it's like 5 years from now if a sister comes up and says, thank you, Michael B. Jordan, not for being people's sexiest man alive, but because of what you said, they hired me on 2 productions, and now I've done 25 productions for my catering company. Thank you for saying what you said when it came to transportation companies, because I had 2 cars, and all of a sudden, because of what you did and getting those contracts, I now have a fleet of 50 or 100 limousines and sprinters and other transportation vehicles, because you use your power. Yeah, I watched you and you didn't know about me, but because of what you said and did and forcing them to change, then that's how this thing is going, which is all I'm trying to say to everybody. The same thing applies in these political campaigns. I'm going to say this, I'm going to end this right now, because I told y'all I was going to preach this thing, and that is this here. I need the same thing happen in political campaigns. I need this, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put this out there right now, and it don't even matter. And I'm not just putting it on her, but I need Vice President Kamala Harris to call the DSCC, and to call the DCCC, and to call the Democratic Governors Associations, and call in Emily's List, and call in labor unions, and call in all of these folks, the environmentalists, all these folks who are funding this political apparatus, and say, same thing. What black event planners are y'all using? What black audio video companies are y'all using? What black streamers are y'all using? What black ad agencies are y'all using? What black political consultants are y'all using? Because see, again, if it ain't, I go back, if it ain't, if you don't have black talent, if you don't have black votes, if you don't have black political power, then nobody can get elected. All I'm simply saying is challenging folk on this whole deal. Because see, I'm going to tell y'all what happened to us when it came to the Georgia race, when we sought media money, but they funded us with celebrity influencer money. See, y'all ain't gonna make me really go there with this here. See, don't make me have to go there because what they offered is not what we asked for. We appreciated what we got, but it was not what we actually asked for, and we over-delivered on what we did in Georgia and what was funded. And so all I'm saying is, if you're gonna be black, and you're going to come into the room, I need you to walk in your full authority. I need you to walk in with all of your people at your back, your ancestors at your back, your present-day advocates at your back. And when you sit in that room and you walk in your full authority, and when you sit down, you need to bring the presence of your people with you, so when they look across the table at you, they not just looking at you, but looking at an army of black people going back centuries behind you and say, I'm here now to do business.
That's right.
All right.
That's right,
That's what we should be talking about.
Yes,
folks,
sir.
that is it for us. Greg Carr, Reese, Erica, I certainly appreciate that. Thank you so very much, folks. I'll be back in studio tomorrow. We've had a fantastic time here in Jacksonville on the road. Janetta B. I cannot wait till y'all see the conversation between Janetta B. Cole and Tiffany Lofton, Charlie Cobb, and Philip Agnew, and of course, my man Cliff Albright, Ambassador Andrew Young, and my one-on-one with 90-year-old Fred Gray. We shot yesterday in Tuskegee, Alabama. It was an unbelievable conversation all week, and so we certainly appreciate it. Our crew has been fantastic. We are here, and I posted this on Instagram, and this is going to be the last point I go ahead and make because I need people to understand. I said this on Instagram. I'm an efficiency geek, and so what we do here is when we travel. And also because of COVID, I had somebody who posted, well, I see how fan money is being spent. And I said, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is a fabulous house and on a waterfront here in Jacksonville, Florida. But because of COVID, I didn't want to have us in 8 hotel rooms, okay? So what we did is everybody been tested. We in the house, COVID-free. Now we can actually have our whole staff living together in the same location. It's an 8-bedroom, 8-bathroom house here. Not only that, we were able to shoot all of our interviews here as well. We did them outside, so it gave us the full protection. It also kept us from having to unpack, pack, take stuff down, set it up. And so this is how we also are efficient when we're doing our work. Same thing last week when I was in St. Louis. I was in St. Louis for 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I can't wait till y'all see the interview I did with Wesley Bell, the first black DA there, and also Kim Gardner, the first black woman DA there as well. Then, of course, we also sat down with Michael McMillan, the amazing stuff they're doing with the St. Louis Area Urban League. And then, of course, my amazing conversation with Tef Poe. Y'all, we shot all of that stuff, y'all, in essentially 2 days there in St. Louis. And so the stuff that we are doing is about taking this show on the road, taking our power and helping our folk out. It's allowing us to be able to constantly put them in a position where we're telling the stories. And so this is not the only time we're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing this and going to other cities as well. I simply cannot wait. To the folks in the control room, do me a favor. I'm loading a video in GroupMe. I want y'all to play the video. You got to turn the music down because we don't own the music rights to it. But I want y'all to run that. But what I'm talking about here, y'all, is we are creating this whole deal to be able to tell our stories in a unique way, to be able to capture these conversations that exist between our people and allowing them, Greg, to be able to tell their story in their own way, not in a 5-8 minute segment. And here's the other deal, Erica, we ain't doing this because it's February and Black History Month.
Come on.
So I mean that's cute, but that's not why we're doing it. And so what we are trying to do is to actually build something. And here's the other piece, y'all, because we own it and control it. This ain't gonna get edited by somebody who don't know our story. You're not gonna see. Y'all need to understand. You're not gonna have a situation where we gonna do an hour and a half, 2-hour interview, and then we gonna pick the 10, 12 minutes that we think are interesting. No, we gonna give you the whole thing so you can actually hear it in its fullness and in its rawness. But see, that's what I'm talking about. But see, this only happens if it's Black owned. Mm-hmm. This only happens if it's Black controlled, and this only happens if it's funded by you. What Greg said, being able to sit at the table and say no. And let me be real clear, okay? We got some white folks who are watching this show. I told y'all about the 70-year-old white gay man who sent me a letter. He said, I watched Roland Martin Unfiltered. And I appreciate his $50 the same way I appreciate somebody Black $50, somebody who not gay, somebody who not white. It don't matter. But the folk who have given us $1 or $5 or $10, y'all need to understand how our people are. We were in Atlanta, Erica, at the last Biden rally for Ossoff and Warnock. And a sister saw us on YouTube. She said, I needed my daughter to come meet you. She brought her $20.
My God.
She came there in the cold to get a photo and brought her $20 donation for our Bring the Funk fan club. That's what I'm talking about. I've had people stop. I've had people stop me in airports and put $10 in my hand. They said, you ain't got to put my name down, but I'm making my contribution to Roland Martin Unfiltered. I'm trying to tell y'all, I'm not, look, this ain't no Creflo Dollar stuff where I'm trying to make stuff up to get you to give and give a story. No, I'm telling you literally what we have experienced as we have traveled around this country. Yesterday at the Tuskegee, the museum there, man, the Multicultural Center, man, they laid it out for us. They were great. They were wonderful. They had the video on the sign. It was all of that. I mean, we just had an amazing conversation. We had, hey, get Chalet. I need her to tell her to text me, Chalet. I need the name of the black caterer in Tuskegee and the black caterer here in Jacksonville. Text it to me right now. All of that. So I just want y'all to understand why we're doing this. We're doing this because we're not interested in talking about black excellence and only through the prism, and it's no disrespect, but we ain't talking about black excellence as if it's defined by Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, by Beyonce, by LeBron, no. The depth of talent and knowledge that we have in our community that goes unknown and unsupported every day is unbelievable.
That's right.
I'm sitting here texting, congratulations to Bree Newsom on having your baby, you and your husband. But we're gonna be recording a conversation between Bree Newsom and Reverend Dr. William J. Barber. We're gonna be recording a conversation between rapper Chris Payne and Chuck D. I've already confirmed it today. So we're doing that. And so what I'm trying to get y'all to understand, we're doing this because I'm not interested in asking somebody else for permission. Nobody. We have the same knowledge, and we can buy the same cameras and the same lights and the same live view. We can rent the same big ass houses with pools if they can as well. We can do all the same stuff. But we also need your support. So please support us. Again, show the graphic, please. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. Remember, you give on YouTube, we only get 55% of that. They get 45%. They already got billions, so just go get the money directed to us so we get 100%, because I prefer 100% over 55%. So support us at Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal.me/R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo.com/RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, money order 1625 K Street Northwest, Suite 400, Washington, D.C. 2006. Y'all, we gonna end the show with this. And so Tiffany Lofton and Phil Agnew, they of course, we took them to the airport after they interview, and you know Tiffany had to be real extra in the Mobile. Y'all also paid for that. Our Sprinter, that's what allowed us to travel with all of our gear. We got a restroom, a microwave, a refrigerator, all this sort of stuff, so we can actually be protected traveling around this country, doing some amazing things. And so that's it right there. I'm about to go. Again, Greg, Reese, Erica, thanks a lot. Y'all show that video of Crazy Tiffany. That's how we're going to end the show from Jacksonville. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Holla!
Got my ass